Hello everyone, and welcome to the next edition of the Holland Land Office Museum's Artifact Video Series. My name is Ryan Duffy and I'm the director of the museum. And this week we're going to talk about some of the agricultural businesses that sprung up here in Genesee County and more specifically in the Batavia region, stretching back all the way into the 19th century. Now the area we're going to focus on is of dairies and milk producing, and two particular dairy companies that we're going to talk about are the Fargo-Ware company and the Branton Dairy company. Now, Fargo-Ware was actually two different dairies that were combined, but both had their beginnings in the late 19th century. The Fargo component was started by Henry Fargo, and the Ware component started by William Ware around the same time. Now, the Branton Dairy also gets its start at a very similar point by a man named Augustus Branton, and they're all connected in another way, not just by the products they produce, but they're all bought out by the same company in the 1960s, Genesee Farms, and all put under one company. So they get their start around the same time, and they actually get their end at about the same time as well. So we're going to jump into their history of both companies, where they began, how they got going, and I'll even show you some pictures of some of the artifacts we have from those companies to give you a better idea of their story. Now, Fargo-Ware, the first component, was started by Henry Fargo, who actually started his milk route in 1873 from his farm on Bank Street Road. And in 1907, his son, Warren Fargo, bought the business and called it the Evergreen Farm Dairy. 3 years later, they moved from Bank Street Road into the village at 102 Bank Street. When Warren Fargo took over, they purchased the Coates home at 208 East Main Street and actually built a modern dairy plant behind it, where they installed milk pasteurizing equipment and machinery for making ice cream. And several years during that time, his brother Robert ran a confectionery store and ice cream parlor in the house, actually. In July 1916, Warren Fargo sold the ice cream part of his business and confined himself to milk and cream. His son Cyrus joined him in that year, and a second son Wallace came into the firm in 1919, and they were the ones that carried out most of the responsibilities for their business as Warren started to ease into retirement. Into the 1950s, the Fargo brothers built a small dairy store at the 208 East Main Street home in front of their dairy and far enough from the street to leave parking space for customers. In 1958, they combined with William Ware and his Fairfield Dairy to become the Fargo-Ware Incorporated. Now, moving on to Mr. Ware, William Ware started the Fairfield Dairy on the Ware farm on the Ellicott Street Road near Cedar Street. His son, Henry, helped with the operation, and he's the one who built a modern mechanized plant on Cedar Street. It was so mechanized that they actually delivered milk in trucks and kept no milk horses, which was actually ahead of its time at the moment. The company lasted until 1958 when Mr. Ware closed the dairy and joined the Fargos. And it was actually that the Ware Fargo company would last until 1969 when they were bought out by the Genesee Farms Incorporated company. Now, Brantons Dairy was started by August Branton about the same time when he started his milk route. And in 1889, he was actually the one who would deliver a lot of the milk before there was bottled milk and even refrigerated trucks. In 1891, he moved from his farm on South Main Street to one on the West Main Street Road, and he'd eventually be joined by his son John and grandson Robert, and they would actually live on that farm until the 1980s. John delivered milk with his father while he was still a pupil in the Bushville School and was in the milk business for 63 years, except when he served in World War I. He would marry Isabel Kellogg of Stafford, and they would actually build a home on River Street, and she would be the one that would actually help run the business and then take over as president in 1954 when John passed away. At that time, the industry had changed a great deal as there's a lot more supervision, and the Brantons had to adjust. They had started pasteurizing their milk in 1922, but then had to also clarify and homogenize their milk by 1959. In 1964, they retired their last milk horse and moved everything into motorized transportation. And it was then that year that they opened a dairy store on West Main Road, Brantons Dairy, just to the east of the farm. They also installed a new milking processing plant and weighed and clarified milk all in one process. After the milk had been tested for butter fat content, it was then pasteurized, cooled rapidly, and bottled by automatic machinery and stored in time for delivery. Now, the operation would last another 10 years before they were also bought out by Genesee Farms Incorporated. Well, I hope you enjoyed this edition of our Artifact video series and learned a little bit more about some of the prominent dairies in Batavia and Genesee County's history, Fargo-Ware and Branton, and how they got started and how they grew to be successful businesses. In case you've missed any of our previous videos, be sure to go check them out on our YouTube channel, Holland Land Office Museum, and specifically go to the Artifact video series playlist, and you can check out every single one we've done. We're now up over 80 videos, so there's plenty of material to go through. And if you like any of the things we posted, be sure to give the channel a like and subscribe, as it helps us out a little bit, but it also gets you notified real quickly when we release new things. But as always, the best way to come and learn more about the artifacts we have here and the stories we have to tell is to stop by the museum for yourself, and we'll be happy to share even more information than what you've learned here in these videos.